Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Two Dicks Exposed. I am your host, not Pat.
And I am your other host, not Mike.
Today we're going to be talking about, and for multiple days to come, we are going to be talking about The Legend of Zelda, the franchise that, keeps me addicted to Nintendo.
This is the franchise that started it for me. Everything before my first Zelda, which was Ocarina of Time, anything before that was just a game to me. When this episode airs, we are less than 24 hours before
away.
Tears of the Kingdom drops, which is going to be probably like the best day of my life.
Yeah.
Ever. And then something else special is we are finally reunited with our third host, Couch Mike. How you doing, Couch Mike?
Couch Mike, I am here. I am ready to talk Zelda.
Yeah, baby.
It's going to be fun.
So, Couch Mike, he has been playing Zelda just as long as any of us, and he knows more than me. I'll admit that right now. I'm an avid player, but not
I don't know if you can test me.
I'm getting stared down
I'm
by
stared
not
down.
Pat. I feel like the pressure's on.
The pressure is on.
See, I'm just really excited because I'm a button masher. So, like, I love to play the games, but then I'm like, oh, fuck, dialogue? Hey.
If you go far back enough into the YouTube history algorithm that we were talking about earlier, there is definitely going to be like a sequence where it's like episodes upon episodes of me listening to Zeltic, which is a YouTuber who does Zelda theories.
Just the breakdowns.
I literally will just listen to that guy for hours at work.
I feel like we have to plug like our favorite Zelda tubers. Like, I don't know if you guys listen to Nintendo Black Crisis and Zeltic. I know you said Zeltic, but the work they've been putting out, like the trailer just dropped. I go the next day. Here's a 3-hour like deep dive on every single cell that happened
in this
there.
one scene. If you look closely at the bottom left corner, there's Hyrulean text, and it clearly says, and I'm like, the fact that you actually know how to read Hyrulean text, like, I know like in the books, like it shows you how to like actually read it, but like I am not that obsessed. So, yeah, let's start with the thing that everyone obviously is going to be talking about, and when you talk about Zelda, there's one thing that you like that comes up all the time now, and that's timeline. Right? So I was a kid that like was obsessed with Zelda my whole life, and I never once thought of a timeline, like ever. Like Final Fantasy doesn't have a timeline.
For the longest time, I always thought each individual Zelda game was just like kind of in its own universe.
Yeah,
and no connections whatsoever, except for Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. Obviously, they were the same.
Yeah,
and then
there were some some that were obvious spinoffs. Even outside of that one, you had the Phantom Hourglass and the Spirit Tracks, which like I don't think they're not Phantom Hourglass, Spirit Tracks, Wind Waker, Phantom Hourglass, because Spirit Tracks takes place after the rise of Hyrule again, which didn't exist yet. But again, we'll get there.
We'll get there. Let's stop jumping ahead of ourselves.
Link,
and then Link 1 and 2.
Link 1 and 2.
Adventures of Link.
Or
Adventures of
Zelda. The Adventures of Link.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
Zelda 1 and 2.
Zelda 1 and 2.
Which
is obviously following the adventures of our main boy Zelda.
So it goes to the very beginning, the creation of the world. Where you have the three goddesses, or the three gods. They're three gods. I don't think they ever give the
Din, Fayu, and
Nier
and Yarg. Like I said, I hit A really fast. I know Din's fire because it was dope at Ocarina of Time.
What's the last one there, Dan?
Niaru.
This is
Din?
not microphone person.
It's
Din, Riru, and what is the last person? Not important is what they are.
Din, Furore, and
Fiore. Yeah, you got fire, wind, and water.
I forget. Yeah,
it's like
Din
Niaru
fire,
or something like
Furore
that.
is wind, and water is. Oh God, I can't remember.
Din, Nehru, and Furore.
Nehru. That's what it was.
That's what I've been saying this entire time.
Yeah, you actually have been like hitting it close to the head. So, all right. So right off the bat, me nor not Couch Mike could remember all three gods. So
it's okay. This is gonna be
great. Okay, so let's jump into the timeline before we waste anything more. This is what people have come for.
The three gods created the lands, the skies, everything. Right? They created everything, and then they birthed the land with the Triforce, and they gave it to the goddess Hylia. Yes. So the goddess Hylia then, with the rise of the demon king Demise, tried to destroy the world. Hylia tried using the Triforce to stop Demise, but found out that the gods Dandaru and Furor made it so that no god can use the Triforce. So she then takes all of her people up to Skyloft, and she resurrects herself as a human so that she can use the Triforce, sealing away Demise because she didn't have the power to actually destroy Demise. And that is where we start 100 years later with the story of Skyward Sword and the next reincarnation of the goddess Hylia, Zelda. That's
you good?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how it starts. It's how Skyward starts.
Okay. So I'll put it out there first, and I think I've said it before. I played half of Skyward Sword and stopped because I got so bored and frustrated.
So is this my? Do you want me to take it away?
I'm just gonna sit here and listen to you do everything and just chime in wittingly.
Skyward Sword starts off with Link, our main hero,
our boy Link,
right?
This with his big old pelican bird.
If you go chronologically, this is the very first Link. There is a manga that's at the end of the Hyrule Historia where it talks about another Link that was the goddess Hylia's chosen during the war against Demise. But I don't know if they've ever confirmed that it's a canon story. I like to think it is because that manga is awesome. But technically speaking, this is the very first Link in the timeline. So Link wakes up, he goes to his goes to his night training, the Loftwing. He goes to this Loftwing night training, and he winds up winning. He goes to the top of the goddess Hylia statue, where Zelda who is playing the role of the goddess Hylia, playing the role of goddess Hylia. She's not Hylia yet. Gives him a parachute. They fly off. It's all cute in the sunset, and then she gets kidnapped by a tornado. Then
like any true love story,
That's
how it starts.
Link then wakes up in the middle of the night being called by a voice. He goes down and he gets introduced to easily one of the most annoying characters in all of Zelda.
The Crystal Beast.
Fee.
Groose. I think you mean Groose.
Groose. No, Groose is cool, dude. I like Groose. Fee shows up. She's the spirit of the Master Sword. And she tells him, like, blah, blah, blah. Zelda's down on the land, like on the land below the sky, and he's like, wait, what? There's land beneath the sky? What? Whoa. So he goes down there, and you find out that Zelda was kidnapped by the demon king Girahim. Girahim tries to
he's the fancy boy with the pokey sword.
The fancy sword, yep.
Yeah.
He's the one who's all very eccentric. I love him. I love it. He like licks his tongue and all that stuff. Like when he's fighting, love.
I just remember I only played half the game, and I'm pretty sure I had to fight him like 5 times.
You do. You had to fight him a bunch of times throughout the game because he's always trying. Like he's always showing up like right.
He's like the Gary Oak of Zelda.
Yeah, he really is the Gary Oak of Zelda. And you find out that Zelda was down there and she's anointing herself in these different spirit springs to like restore her power of the goddess Hylia, because she is the reincarnation of Hylia. She finally gets back all of her memories of being the goddess Hylia, and she decides to seal herself away to stop Demise from returning. Girahim steps in, does a bunch of stuff, and time travel is involved. There is time travel involved in this game, which, I mean, Nintendo, stop.
Yeah, for being the first game allegedly in the series and having a cyclical timeline within its own game, you're just like, why?
Yeah, there. If you are an avid follower of the game, you can actually look through at certain points and see that the crystal that Zelda turns into to stop Demise is already there, which means that she already has gone back in time to become the crystal to stop Demise's resurrection. So it kind of does that, but then stuff happens and she winds up. The whole process gets stopped. The Triforce reemerges and Link touches it and summons the goddess Hylia statue from Skyloft down to completely seal Demise. So Demise cannot be resurrected. I'm literally like jumping through a lot of things here. Like
Demise is that weird like Godzilla looking worm, right?
Yeah.
That just has like the mouth on the top.
You just have to like bust up his toes and then he flops back down and you gotta Groose shoots him. Skyward Sword has a lot of lore to it. There's a lot of lore to this game. Like and it has to be because it's the very first in the timeline. Because like literally we can yada through every game after this one. Like, so Girahim shows up. He decides, well, heck, if I take Zelda back 1,000 years to the past, before the statue came down to seal Demise away completely, I can resurrect Demise, which breaks the whole timeline thing, which is why it gets confusing, because there's a paradox now. So he goes back in time. He starts the ritual to sacrifice the holy essence inside Zelda to resurrect Demise, which he succeeds, and Demise is resurrected. Upon his resurrection, we find out that Fi, who is the embodiment of the Master Sword, has a counterpart, which is Girahim, who is the essence of Demise's sword. So it turns out this whole time you were literally just fighting Demise's sword the entire time.
Oh.
Demise takes Girahim, turns him back into a sword, and one of the coolest final battles in all of Zelda history takes place. That is such a cool, like, if you ever get a chance to watch, like, that fight sequence, it's all cloud and, like, thunderstorms and lightning's, like, raining down.
I heard it was actually hard as shit,
it's
too.
It's super fucking hard.
Yeah.
But, like, eventually you beat Demise.
Mm-hmm.
But before Demise, like, breathes his last breath, he decides to curse both Link and Zelda's descendant for, like, throughout the rest of time, saying that I will be back. You have not seen the last of me. And that's the end of Skyward Sword. So that actually starts the everything, because you do know who Demise is eventually later, who he reincarnates as, right? Like
Ganondorf?
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Just want to make sure, like, I don't want to like.
That's another important name for all you fans.
Well, we're
Remember Ganondorf.
He's gonna come back.
He's gonna make an appearance or two.
Am I continuing? Because I don't know if you didn't play either one of these games either, did you?
Minish Cap, that's just a fashion show. It's not really important whatsoever. There's like a Simon Cowell guy named Vadi who comes in.
The Minish Cap is super important. What are you talking about? It's the start of the Kingdom of Hyrule. The Minish Cap is literally where, like,
well, obviously we played two different games, so I'll let you continue.
So Skyloft, the people of Skyloft come to the ground, right? Eventually, because Demise has been defeated, so they no longer have to live in seclusion in the sky anymore, so they're on the ground, which then leads to the creation of the Kingdom of Hyrule, with the king having the direct bloodline of the goddess of Hylia. So Zelda at some point had children in her bloodline, and that led to eventually the king of Hyrule. And then in it we get our first villain that is important, because Vati is the only villain outside of Ganondorf that is a reoccurring villain. Yeah, like Vati shows up multiple times, even in later timelines. He shows up in the Child Era timeline. So
and the wizard that is in A Link to the Past,
the Spirit of Agnum.
Yeah.
And then who was the dude that was in Twilight Princess? Because he also made a couple appearances, didn't he? Like
Xanth. Yeah. No, that's the first time I think.
Is that the first time?
Unless you count Link's bow training.
He does show up.
Huge lore in that game.
Huge lore. There actually is a lot of lore in that game that actually technically does tie into.
You can't be serious.
There is. Dude, are we not watching the same Zelda timeline?
Listen, okay, everyone's gonna get a 5th video strictly on Link's bow training.
All right. So the Minish Cap, Vadi shows up. He freezes Zelda. You find out that the Master Sword was created by a race called the Picori. The Picori only show themselves to children because they are pure of heart. Link then goes into... Well, not all kids are pure of heart.
Oh, I'm saying I don't like showing things to children. Especially if they're pure of heart.
Hey, so little kid, you want to see my sword?
He goes into the woods. He finds his hat. I can't remember the name of the hat.
Is it Minish?
Yeah, sure.
Or is that more of a cap?
Sure. I don't know. It's the way that they it's I don't know. Zelda just
his name's Eslo.
Eslo?
Eslo.
It is. Oh yeah, Eslo.
Dumbass bird hat.
Oh shit, that is a bird hat.
That is a bird hat.
That's dumb.
That's on the Switch. You should play that game. It is a lot of fun.
It is.
It is a lot of fun. It's not even made by Nintendo.
It's free.
One of these days, this podcast
Capcom,
is gonna like make a lot of money, and I'll actually have free time to go back and
right.
Watch all the anime that I said like, oh, I gotta watch that, or
anime.
Play these video games, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do this, or build the 7,000 Gundam model kits, or I'll have time to live.
Actually, do these things.
Right.
The Minish Cap is actually part of the timeline, and it's made by Capcom. Like that is a
dope.
Nintendo obviously like worked with them with it, but
right.
It's made by Capcom. And so blah 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 things happen. Vadi gets defeated, but Vadi gets sealed away, which then leads to Four Swords Adventure. Yada yada yada. Vadi gets released, and there's 4 swords and 4 links. You go throughout the game. You beat Vadi. Vadi gets sealed again.
Multiplayer.
That's kind of like there is a lot more lore into it, but the Minish Cap is the start of the race of the Hylian race, the start of the Kingdom of Hyrule. And so that leads us into the quintessential second game that has the most lore to it.
Ocarina
of Time.
Woo! Yeah. Okay. I like Ocarina of Time.
Ocarina of Time.
I know stuff about Ocarina of Time.
This is where like you could finally join in.
This is where I can finally join in.
I'm sorry, like Skyward Sword, and then it's Skyward Sword and 2 handhelds, and now Ocarina of Time.
And now Ocarina of Time. So Ocarina of Time was a great little 6-year-old Pat going over his buddy's house and being like, what is this game? And watching him fight a spider in a tree. And that is the point in my life where I decided I'm going to be a nerd and not anything else. I don't care about sports or nothing. I want to fight a spider in a tree.
I'm right there with you. The first time I picked up Ocarina of Time, I watched my neighbor do the final fight against Ganon.
Okay.
And that blew my mind because I saw him fight him on the top of the tower and then running down to the bottom and then fighting Ganon, the pig, the version at the end. And I was like, what is this game?
Right.
And so like I went through like the first time ever where I watched the ending of a game and it made me want to play.
I gotta say that Ocarina of Time probably has the coolest looking Ganon too. And any of the games I've played, at least.
Like I know it's some like one of our episodes we're gonna talk about like favorite blah 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 like favorite Link, favorite Zelda, but let's just get this out of the way. Favorite Ganon, like Ganondorf, is Ocarina of Time.
It's Ocarina of Time.
It's Ocarina of Time,
which is like the first time you really see Ganondorf.
Yeah, it's actually it's when Demise.
It's his origin story. Yeah,
it's when he resurrects. The story of Ocarina of Time starts with a war between the Hylians and the Gerudo race in the desert, where Ganondorf, he is the first. He is the only
the male of the Gerudo race, which their legend says any male born, which is like one every 100 years, becomes the king of the Gerudos.
Even further than that, they can whatever like race, whatever a Gerudo like does anything with, regardless, pure blooded Gerudo.
Yeah,
like anything. There's no
because it's such a strong bloodline. It
There's like
out the other
they could like sleep with Azura. Like, sorry, you're the next Ganondorf. Doesn't matter.
So that leads to the birth of because they always give birth to females, and that leads to the birth of Ganondorf, which is obviously the resurrection of Demise. Which
is the king of thieves. A
lot of people believe that Ganondorf is actually Groose from Skyward Sword.
I knew it.
Yeah. Did you not hear that theory?
No,
we'll get into the theories.
Right, hold on.
This is like Jar Jar Binks.
You guys have said Groove.
So in the Skyward Sword, so when Link was getting bullied, like at high school, because clearly you need Zelda in high school.
Yeah.
So there's Groose, which is like the 7-foot-tall guy with like the mohawk.
Chad.
Who he's got a crush on Zelda. And he's like, you're not gonna amount to anything. You can't even save the world. And then he proves him wrong, but like clearly
Groose has a coming around in that story though. He actually eventually like recognizes.
Well, yeah,
Link.
Clearly he creates the Groose cannon, which shoots Demise with cannonballs, saving the day before Link could do anything.
Yeah.
Oh, so Link didn't save the day; it was all him.
It was all Groose. The Groose is loose.
Groose is loose.
But, anyways, so he goes to war with the Hylians, and then a mother trying to avoid the war that's going on now between the 4 races. The Gerudo, the Gorons, the Zoras, and the Hylians. She decides to escape. She runs into the forest where she is killed by Stalfoses, which she eventually comes to be in front of the Great Deku Tree, and she says, "Can you please take care of my child?" The Great Deku Tree, realizing that there is a lot of destiny within this child, says, "Yeah, sure, I'll take care of her."
I got you.
And that's Link.
Yeah, so the story starts with
there.
Link in his little tree house waking up and being like and you climb down and you run around and you're like, I don't know what to do. So naturally you find a wooden sword and you find a wooden shield and you
punch that little stupid dumb nerd in the face, and you go and talk to the deck.
Yeah, the guy who's doing like the MC Hammer dance in front of the just like you can't pass, you can't pass, you're not cool enough.
You go to the Deku Tree. You find out he's cursed because Ganondorf asked him for the seal, the Earth, whatever.
Right, the green gem.
The green gem.
Hold on. I have a visual for you guys.
You got a visual.
Which is kind of stupid because you can tell how stupid I am when it comes to Zelda. But that one. We've reached that gem. That's inside of a tree.
And he gets that, and he put a creature spider inside of him. Link goes in, proves his courage, beats the spider Goma. He comes out. He's
gonna say Gumbo. Gumbo, the giant spider.
I've played this game front and back like 1,000 times. Like I can name every monster, like every boss monster in this game.
Hell yeah.
So then he goes to the Hyrule Castle where he meets with Princess Zelda, and she had dreams of light coming out from the forest, and obviously you're that. Oh, right. Also Navi gets introduced.
Oh yeah. And the most
annoying character in this.
No, hold on.
You know what? I would have to give it to another character who doesn't appear until Wind Waker.
Okay, because we also meet the owl in this.
Oh, I forgot about him.
Might be one of the most frustrating things in the world. Yeah. So for those of you who haven't played Ocarina yet, you get to meet this amazing guy right after you beat the Deku Tree, where you're trying to leave Kakariko Forest for the first time and go out into the Hyrule Field, and all of a sudden there's this big ass owl sitting up on a tree limb, and he's just like, "Hey Link, how you doing? Let me tell you about all this stuff." And he goes on this long spiel, and then at the end of it, he's just like, "Did you get all that?" And for some reason, Nintendo made no the top one.
Yes.
So when you're sitting there button mashing, you hit no, and he starts his fucking story over again.
And then he changes the way he words the question. Did you get all that? Or the next time you meet him, he says, "Do you want me to repeat that?" Mm-hmm. And if you're not paying attention,
you go down to say yes, because you know that no was the wrong answer the last time, and then he repeats it again. Right. Fucking bird.
Fuck you, Geku.
Fucking bird.
But she gives you the introduction letter, so you go to the city of Gorons, where it turns out that Ganon decided to starve a bunch of rock-eating people by putting a giant rock in front of their thing. I get that it's a different type of rock. I get that. But like,
we've got Big Boulder at home.
You go inside, you meet Darunia for the first time, and
yep.
Darunia is like, "Hey, if you can go in and stop King Dodongo, I will give
Dodongo need food.
The fire jewel." He goes in, you beats King Dodongo, and you get the fire gem. And then you go
and then you leave after that. You go into Zora's domain, and you find
you go through the longest cutscene ever, where
where the king is just scooting over. Let me get out of the way here. Let me get out of the way. And Link is just like, oh, for 10 minutes straight, just as Navi is just like,
just wait.
Hey, listen.
And then you finally get inside there, because the reason why he's willing to give you the gem is because his daughter was swallowed by Lord Jabu Jabu.
Jabu Jabu.
So you go in, Lord Jabu Jabu, you rescue
Zora Princess,
who falls in love with Link.
Yes.
And
I'll ship it.
You get all 3 gems. And I have to circle back real quick. The reason why you go on this whole quest is because Princess Zelda had a bad feeling about Ganondorf, who was then pledging his allegiance after the war.
Yeah.
To King Hyrule.
Right, because that when Link first meets Zelda, she's spying on the king, who's meeting with Ganondorf, trying to create like a peace treaty. But
he's not.
And Zelda's just like, yeah, this doesn't feel right with me, so I'm gonna like recruit you as my inside man, kind of. I need you to go and do all this stuff before he has a chance to.
Yeah. And so then with all 3 gems, you finally go back to the town of Hyrule.
Yep.
Where as you get closer to it, even during the day, like I always love this, like it's bright day, and as you get closer and closer to
it just gets
darker and darker. Yeah, and that starts the cutscene that's the beginning of the game.
So you realize Ganondorf has then invaded the city of Hyrule and is trying to like take over, capture everyone, all that stuff.
Right.
So as you get close to the city, the doors open, and Impa, who is one of the Sheikah race, she comes galloping out with Zelda under her arms, and as she passes Link, Zelda just kind of is like, hey, take this, I need you to save us, and throws the Ocarina of Time at Link.
Right.
And then right after that, you see Ganondorf kind of like galloping out and being like,
Link's all like, sword and drawn, trying to like stand up to him.
And he's just like, nah, get out of here.
Blasts him and he blows away.
Away.
And then you dive into the water and you get the Ocarina of Time.
Yes.
Oh my God, name drop. And
finally, you understand the game now.
Yeah, you go into the Temple of Time. You play the song. You put the spiritual gems down, and that opens the door where
you find the Master Sword
just sitting there
for the first time in this game.
But the Master Sword is also what seals away the Sacred Realm where the Triforce lays. So when you pull the Master Sword out, Ganondorf, realizing that Zelda was up to something, comes back to the town and sees that you just opened the Sacred Realm. So he goes in and gets the Triforce.
Yes.
But before he can touch the Triforce, it splits into 3, giving Ganondorf the power.
Triforce of power. Link gets Triforce Courage. And Zelda gets the Triforce of Wisdom.
Yep. You wake up and there is a cool guy named Sheik that tells you that you need to go wake up all the sages.
Yep.
Because everything has gone to shit. There's zombies, murdering
fun little
people
fact,
in
it's
the
also
town.
been like 10 years.
It's also been like 10
years.
years.
You've just been in hibernation for 10 years.
7.
Give or take.
Because you're 17 in the game. You're 10 at the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
That's all I remember. Except for everything. I remember everything.
That's all I remember, except every minute
little
detail.
So you go to the different like areas where you're supposed to go to wake up the sages. So you got the main sage who is already in the Twilight, the Sacred Realm.
The big boy,
the old dude. He's already there.
Yeah.
So you go.
Yeah, and it's really cool because at this point, like, it switches over from a child fun cartoony game to like, the world is fucked.
Yeah.
Everything is destroyed. Like, everything you visited as a kid is now like burned down and in ruins.
Though I will say, though, the most terrifying thing that happens in the game that's creepy and fucked up happens in the child timeline when you get the mask, the Eye of Truth, when you have to fight that like weird boss guy with like the hands that come up out of the ground.
Bongo?
Was that
Bongo Bongo?
No, Bongo is the adult one. The one where
the
like,
one that's
like
in the graveyard.
Yeah, like
no, that's adult. That's a temple. That's the Shadow Temple.
No. You're thinking of the Shadow Temple. I'm talking about when.
Well, I just said that's the Shadow Temple.
As a kid, you have to get the Eye of Truth, so you have to go into.
Oh, okay.
The
white skeleton thing.
Yeah,
okay,
it has
yes.
a giant hand and it grabs Link, and you have to like shake it off.
That thing is horrifying.
Yeah, that thing is terrifying.
That and also the spider house.
Oh yeah,
that's pretty creepy.
Badonga Dongo. He's he's adult. So you go around, you wake up all the different the different sages, which there are 6 of them.
6 of them. You got the Saria, his elf girlfriend.
Yeah.
You got Rudo, his water girlfriend. You got
Darunia, his
Goron boyfriend.
Yeah.
Boyfriend. You got Old Man. Who are the last 2?
Impa, who is the shadow one.
She was like the bodyguard of
and
Zelda.
The Gerudo, I can't remember her name, but she was the one that like she opposed. She didn't like Ganondorf's like the fact that Ganondorf was just king just because he was a boy.
I gotcha.
So she went to the spiritual temple to try and like find a weapon, and that's where you have that cool sequence where it's the temple has to be solved both as young Link and adult Link. So you meet her as young Link, and she's like, "I'm going to get in there, steal the item so I can beat Ganondorf." And as you go through it, Twin Rova shows up and steals her. She's the sage, but then you have to beat her as she's like that's the first time you meet the Dark Nut.
Mm-hmm.
That's that guy. Yeah. So she's in that statue, and then you beat Twin Rova, and then her spirit gets freed as a sage, and then you go to the Rainbow Bridge, and you go to the Hyrule Castle.
Don't forget, we also have Dark Link in this game.
Dark Link,
which I believe is the first appearance of Dark Link, or did he come in a handheld prior to this?
Technically speaking, Dark Link's very first appearance, chronologically, video game wise, is the Adventures of Link. But storyline wise, yes, this is the first appearance.
Because Dark Link is also the previous version of Link. It's one of his previous reincarnations, isn't it?
It's the mirror image of Link. It's just the mirror image.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
See, I thought it was one of the other heroes that like his spirit.
That's Twilight Princess.
That's Twilight Princess.
That's Twilight
That's
Princess.
the one that like when you go into like the other realm to learn like training, like your avatar state of Zelda. That's the one that's training.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
getting all my
teaches you like the finishing blows and stuff.
Getting all my dope ass shit games confused.
I mean, that game is fantastic.
And then we also have the Water Temple, which is the
Water Temple is where he shows up.
The hardest thing in the world.
Yeah, the Water Temple, super hard. I hate that. He's a mini boss in that game.
Yeah.
And then you fight Amphibia, which
keeps
is like
jumping on your sword.
The weakest. Like after fighting Dark Link, then you go and you fight the main boss, who's that. You're just like, oh, just hook shot the thing out, slash it. Hook shot the thing out, slash it.
Game over.
You go to the castle Hyrule. You go up top, and as you keep going up and up and up, the organ music keeps getting like more and more intense.
Yep.
Although, can we talk about like Ganondorf's like, I want everything dark, but this Rainbow Bridge.
This Rainbow Bridge.
Yeah, he just lets it happen. He could stop it at any time, but he's like, you know what? This is fire. I like it. I like it.
It's like, you know what? That's that splash of color that I was missing.
Yeah.
All right. He may be evil, but he's still representation.
It's true.
All right. He's not that evil.
He's got an agenda, but he's not trying to go against your agenda.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So he goes up. You go to the top. You fight Ganondorf at the top of the tower.
Honestly, a really easy fight.
Super easy.
Like me as a 6-year-old beat him.
I vividly remember. So not Mike is the brother of not side microphone. I specifically remember I came home on Valentine's Day after I got home from like 3rd grade, and he beat Ganondorf in like the tennis match at that. That's like my most vivid memory of me playing Legend of Zelda.
Just slashing the light ball back at him. And you beat that and you're like, oh, cool, I beat him. And then the castle starts to crumble. You have to run downstairs.
One thing I like about that fight, though, is that he uses the power of the Triforce of Power. Mm-hmm. Which, by the way, also, he kidnaps Zelda at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Sheik is Zelda.
Sheik is Zelda. Sorry. We
yada over that. And he kidnaps her because she has the Triforce of Wisdom, and then he uses his Triforce of Power to keep Navi away, which is why that fight's kind of annoying, because you can't Z-target him to bat the thing away.
Yeah.
So you kind of had to like line your camera up perfectly to like do the tennis match. But with his dying breath, he brings down the castle, and you race down to the bottom of the castle.
And you're like, yay, I made it! Except now you have Ganon. Big old pig monster.
Dark Beast Ganon, baby.
Yeah, which I don't know,
like when he shows up,
like did not even notice he was a pig back then. I'm gonna throw that out there. I thought he was just like this giant like Godzilla monster, because in Ocarina of Time he's like 7 stories tall, and
he's like dual
wielding these giant ass swords, and you run under him with a Deku stick and just massively smack his tail, and you're good to go.
You can then run over, grab the
or you just whip out your big Goron sword. Anyway, you have this
sword,
fight.
you slash him a couple times, stab him in the
middle of the eyes,
and then also this is where the timeline splits, because let's rewind a bit here, and instead of slashing him a bunch of times, he kills you.
So we'll start with that timeline.
Yeah.
So
in this final fight, Ganondorf kills you.
Yeah, we'll just say Ganondorf kills you. The world is now run by darkness. What's going to happen there? Not Pat.
The sages, with their power, while he is in the spiritual, where he is in the sacred realm, decides to seal off the sacred realm so that he cannot mess around with the world in its fullness. So then that leads to easily one of the best Zelda games of all time, A Link to the Past. In this game, A Link to the Past, Ganon reaching across the realms from the sacred realm to the I guess in the game they call it the dark world and light world. So he's reaching from the dark world to the light world, and he is using the wizard Agnum to go around to kidnap these people who are the descendants of the sages who sealed him in the sacred realm in the first place. And he's using them to break the seal between the light and the dark realm so that he can come back and like rule both realms now. You will go on a quest to save all the sages. And then you have an epic showdown between Ganon, because at this point Ganondorf's body has been destroyed, So it's just Ganon. Yeah, because you killed Ganondorf. You destroyed Ganondorf's body, and then you died to Ganon at the end of the fight.
Correct.
That's what led to the dark. Yeah. So it's Pig Ganon. You fight him, and you stop him. And you actually kill him. You actually do kill Ganon in this timeline. And that leads to... Yeah, because what's interesting about this timeline is that the Hylian race is destroyed, and nobody is actually technically pure-blooded Hylian in this timeline. So Ganon took over; he destroyed Hyrule, and so like it takes a while for there to be a descendant of Link, which is why like the world is like pretty much garbage for so long. And then that leads to the Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons, where Twinrova is back from Ocarina of Time, and they're trying to reignite the flames of sorrow, destruction, and despair.
They're Ganondorf's mothers, by the way.
They are Ganondorf's mothers. And they are trying to resurrect him. Obviously, you fool the plan, but in one last-ditch effort, they do resurrect Ganon, but, like, as a mindless monster. And this is where we get mindless monster Ganon, and no longer smart, calculating sorcerer Ganondorf's mentality. It's just, I'm a monster and I'm super strong because I have the Triforce. I'm just here to ravage. I'm just here to destroy. And then it goes to Link's Awakening, which is its own thing where Link goes off on an adventure, meets the windfish, and he wakes him up from his slumber, and that's kind of it. There's like nothing that actually physically happens to the main Zelda timeline in the Link's Awakening game. Nothing that like ties into like the Ganon Link Zelda storyline. And then that goes into Legend of Zelda 1 and Legend of Zelda 2, or The Legend of Zelda and Link's Adventure, where there is dispute between the king and the king of Hyrule and his prince and his princess. I forget the name of the princess' name.
Is it Zelda?
Super Prince.
Prince?
So some
Prince Zelda?
Douchebaggy prince, whatever.
Zeldor.
And then Princess Zelda. Yeah, Zeldor. Zeldor. And throughout this whole time between A Link to the Past and the Legend of Zelda, the reoccurring kings of Hyrule keep using the Triforce of Power, which is out in the open now. They keep using it to maintain peace throughout the world, due to succession of power, because the prince is greedy, because he's being, again, controlled by evil wizard. He decides to get the power, which leads to the Triforce being split, and then Ganon's monsters coming out and just destroying shit left and right, because there's no balance anymore. You eventually collect back the pieces of the Triforce of Wisdom, you give it to Zelda, she restores peace, but then her brother, who's still a douchebag, puts her to sleep, then you have to go out and stop him, which leads to all the demons trying to use the blood of Link to resurrect Ganon, which is why every time you die, it goes, "Arr, arr, arr, arr," and you see like Ganon like pop up because Ganon won. And that's the end of the Link Dies timeline.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So the other two timelines that also got split off kind of go hand in hand. So the two timelines that are left are the child timeline and the adult timeline. Right. So the actual ending of Ocarina of Time that you see is Zelda talking to Link as like she's like one of the sages now, pretty much.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Thank you for saving the world. I want to repay you. So I'm going to send you back to be a child again, so you can actually live the life that you were meant to live and not go through all of this." So the child timeline, this is a leads into Majora's Mask, which is a direct sequel to Ocarina of Time. Like, you know, maybe like 3 weeks past or something like that. Don't know. So you got Link, who starts off just kind of riding Epona through a forest. All of a sudden, Skull Kid comes out of nowhere and gives him a high five, shakes his hand or something. I don't know. Also did not play this game.
Really? Majora's Mask is great.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I need to. I've played through like the first, I don't know, day or whatever. I got the chicken mask.
Link goes on a quest to find a friend that has gone missing, which is the popular theory is Navi, because you see Navi fly off at the end of Ocarina of Time.
Yes.
Because technically he's not a Kokiri, so he shouldn't have a fairy, which is like what a lot of people believe, that she just went back to the forest because he's not a Kokiri, so he's not supposed to have a fairy.
Right.
But the theory is that she fell in love with him and their love could never exist, so that's why she left.
Yeah. But Link did get another fairy named Bob.
Yes.
Cattle.
Tattle.
Yeah. Tattle, the blue fairy.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah.
I know.
I got them on my leg. I got 3 of them.
I just have.
You can't see because I'm behind the table.
You're behind the table.
I have the one that brings you back to life.
Just a fairy.
Yeah. So this is another game of Link running around, putting on masks, turning into people, and there's a big old moon, probably the most memorable moon in all of like Weeaboo history.
Moon. It leads to the like, I think it's the first time we get a mention of the Zonai. Technically,
I don't know if they mentioned Zonai by name, but they definitely reference like a barbarian tribe.
Yeah,
I think Majora's Mask is where like
the idea people were just like the Zonai started.
Well, not even that. Like, I think they were just like, Zelda's fun. Like, it doesn't matter because there's timelines. Yeah. But this is like the first. Oh, there's theories.
Yeah, this is stuff like because it's a direct sequel to a very popular series now, because Ocarina of Time is like the quintessential Zelda game, right? Like, I get Zelda 1, Zelda 2 existed, and Link to the Past, and a lot of these games existed. You have at least 1, 2, 3, 4 games that existed before Ocarina of Time, but Ocarina of Time put Zelda on the map.
If you've never played any Zelda game, you've played Ocarina of Time.
Ocarina of Time.
I think the only complaint I have is I think Ocarina of Time was the first time we got escort missions as like a child.
Yeah.
They introduced us to that evil.
Yeah, sadly. Also, just to touch back on to, this is also when he comes back from time to his kid form, he runs to Princess Zelda and tells Zelda, like, hey, Ganon's a dick. And together with the proof that you have the Triforce of Courage, you convince the king to seal away, like, imprison Ganondorf.
Right.
Yeah, that's something to touch on before we get past Majora's Mask, because it definitely ties into the second game. But yeah, Majora's Mask is, I guess, like,
and it's also the only game that doesn't have Zelda in it. Majora's Mask.
Yeah, Majora's Mask is not, like, she's in it for the very first like 5 seconds because she tells him goodbye.
Yeah, it's just like the voice or whatever.
Bye. Yeah. And so you go through you collect all the giant masks, and the giant masks stop the moon. You go to the moon where you have a final confrontation with Majora, well, the Skull Kid, and then you finally knock the mask off of the Skull Kid, and you find out that the mask is Majora. You beat Majora, and Skull Kid is reunited with his 2 fairies, and he's happy. Poor kid. I love Skull Kid. He's so precious.
Did you see that 3D animation of it? I can't remember. I think it was just called like the Lost Forest or something like that.
It's like an Unreal Engine thing that they did.
It just depicts like him having a great time hanging out in the forest, and then all of a sudden he's Skull Kid. Oh god, it came out like 2 years ago. You got to watch it, guys.
It is beautiful.
We'll maybe link it right there.
Right there.
Yeah.
We're giving our editor work to do because he's not doing it.
Yeah, if Nintendo hasn't filed their cease and desist and everything like that.
Which then leads to Twilight Princess in the adult timeline. I had to bring up Ganon's imprisonment because
it plays a part in Twilight Princess.
Big prison, yeah.
So in this game, you meet up with Midna, who is like
Pixie.
Spoiler.
Yeah.
She's like the princess of the Shadow Realm.
Yeah.
So she comes in, helps you. You turn into a wolf, which is kind of cool, and you can alternate between going into the Twilight Zone,
Realm,
the Twilight Zone, and the normal world.
Normal realm.
And you get like 3/4 of the way through the game, and you shatter a mirror. Or you put together a mirror. There's a mirror involved.
The mirror is what connects the regular realm to the Twilight Realm, which she was the queen of. Xanth, who was a I forget what his like technical position was in the court, used Ganon's power because Ganon still had the Triforce of Power, which he kept with him even as he went into the Shadow Realm. So he used that to corrupt him because he'd already wanted to become the ruler of the Twilight people, and so they put the curse mask on Midna, and then they kicked her out of the Twilight Realm. So you go back to the Twilight Realm where the curse mask breaks and she's free and she's like super powerful because she's the actual queen of the Twilights.
Yeah.
And she kicks ass, all that stuff. You got that cool sequence where she's like that monster that's like attack. Yeah, it's so fucking cool looking.
It is dope.
Yeah.
The game is amazing.
And Ganon comes back to the regular realm, and you have another cool climactic fight with him. It's actually very reminiscent of the Skyward fight against Demise. You're in this like level playing field. Everything's dark and like lightning striking around. And you seal him away again because that's what you do. You just keep sealing him away. And yeah, dude, Twilight Princess is so fantastic, which leads to Four Swords Adventure, where they reincarnate Ganondorf again, because again in this timeline he's Ganondorf. He has his mentality still intact,
still alive. Yep.
Because you beat him, and it's also when Vati gets resurrected after your beat down of him on Four Swords, and that's the end of the child timeline.
And then we have the adult timeline, which is basically the world that Link left behind. So, Ocarina of Time, you beat Ganondorf. Zelda sends you back in time to become a kid.
Kill this guy.
But that world still exists. It's like Future Trunks' timeline, Dragon Ball Z. Got it in there.
Yeah.
You know, it still exists. It still is in like demise from what Ganondorf put it through. And it's just trying to like rebuild itself.
Yeah, so it tries to rebuild itself, but sadly Ganondorf gets revived after you killed him, which leads the gods, I think it's Goddess Hylia, or just the gods in general. I think it's Hylia, because I think the Nehru, Furor, and Din just left. They were just like gone. So no, because Goddess Hylia is a human, so it would be the gods Nehru, Din, and Furor. They seal off Hyrule because, like, you kill him where Hyrule Castle was. That's where you kill him, and they literally seal Hyrule, and then they flood the whole world. Which I'm like, it's a little drastic measure. They're like, we're tired of Ganondorf's bullshit, so we're just gonna like kill everything.
We're gonna give him a super magical seal and bury him in like the Marianas Trench, basically.
Yeah. Which, surprise, surprise, doesn't work. Ganondorf is able to break out of the seal. He's on this realm. He's trying to unlock the land of Hyrule, where again the Triforce is residing, because he wants that Triforce, baby. He wants them 3 triangles. You go around the world. He's trying to find the reincarnation of Hylia again. So he's kidnapping all girls with blonde hair and pointy ears, which is why Link even gets started in the quest in the first place, because he kidnaps his sister.
Yeah.
And you go around, you save your sister, you find out the pirate girl that's been helping you this whole time
is the reincarnation of
Zelda. So you unlock the Hyrule Castle that's been sealed off. But then again, you do what always happens when you unlock something to get the thing. Ganondorf swoops in and grabs it at the last second. And you have to go fight him, and you seal him again. And that leads to Phantom Hourglass. I beat this game. I don't remember much of it. I think it's another one of those, like, Link's on a quest to stop a bad guy. He stops a bad guy. Like, Link's Awakening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just basic stuff.
Yeah.
And then
Choo Choo Train shows up, blah, blah, blah. And then Choo Choo Train, which is the worst of the Zelda games. I'm saying that right now. Hyrule, the Kingdom of Hyrule is back. It's prospering. And you're conducting a train. Another instance of bad guy does thing. You stop bad guy go bye-bye.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And then that's it. And then down the road, we get Breath of the Wild.
Which is where all 3 of these timelines
funnel and come together.
And I don't know the full story about how 3 separate timelines came together to make one, but there are bits and pieces of those 3 timelines that do show up in the Breath of the Wild timeline. Like, Lionel's only exists in the Hero is Dead timeline. Obviously, they exist in Breath of the Wild. They're the strongest monsters, like, that you can fight in that game.
Yeah, they're annoying.
They're
so annoying.
I don't think I ever beat one.
I never did.
Yeah. You get mention of the Twilight Realm, which only existed in the Child timeline.
Mm-hmm.
And you get Hyrule Castle. No, what was the third thing? Oh, Kokiri. Yeah, the Kokiri. They when the world was flooded, they evolved into these things, and they were able to fly around the world, planting seeds and making islands and stuff like that. And the Kokiri, these Kokiri exist in Breath of the Wild, which only exist in the hero of
the Lost Hero timeline.
The Lost Hero timeline.
Adult timeline.
and that's where all three converge together. And Tears of the Kingdom. I keep saying Fallen. Tears of the Kingdom
drops tomorrow, and hopefully expands more on this.
I'm hoping that we get a return of Demise. That's my current.
So we know for a fact we're getting a return of Ganondorf.
Yes.
Who looks pretty much exactly like he did in Ocarina, which I'm excited about.
But he has aspects that are very close to Demise from Skyward Sword, which means that like maybe his essence, because Demise is Ganondorf in all three timelines, so maybe the essence of Demise combined 3 times, we see a resurrection of the original Demon King Demise.
All right, everyone. So, like we said in the beginning, this is obviously going to be a multi-part thing. There's no way you can cover Zelda in just one episode.
Yeah, I mean, look how much I talked throughout this entire timeline thing.
Right. We talked straight for an hour, and we gave you the bare minimum content.
Bare minimum. So scratching surface of story here.
Right. So congratulations. You get to see us again next week with Zelda Part 2, where we dive a little bit more into the games, talk about why we actually loved it, theories, everything. I mean, we're hopefully by the time you watch the next episode, you're already a week into Tears of the Kingdom, and you're going to be laughing at us being like, those dumb scrubs predicted it wrong. But
yeah, I definitely see that happening.
Yeah, that's going to happen. But until then, I'm not Mike.
And I'm not Pat.
And thank you for joining us on this adventure.
If you enjoyed that episode, make sure to join us here every Thursday on YouTube and Spotify as we drop new episodes of that good shit.
And don't forget to give us a follow on Instagram and TikTok for some solid filler content to get you through the week at Not Mike, Not Pat. You should be watching.